This is Denis Ginnevan
Ginnevan, yep.
from Indi. He comes from Yakandanda, and basically he was part of the. It's all right, come on in. He was part of Voices for Indi, which he'll tell you all about, explain about. It's all about community democracy, and I'm not going to say any more than that.
But basically, the group started, well, it formed around the time, around 2012, when where there was a lot of dissatisfaction in the way in which we were being represented. We had a federal member who increasingly seemed to be more interested in her career within a party that was going to Canberra than, the other 98,000 people who live in the electorate. So I don't know, go figure, what could go wrong with that idea? So there was a growing sense of dissatisfaction, but also a growing sense of, individually, I felt like I've been asleep at my own wheel. This has happened whilst I've been here. Typically, when you have if there's a federal representative who is doing a reasonable job, most people would cut them a fair bit of slack and say, oh, well, he or she, they seem like good people, they're working hard, things don't always go right, they may be a backbencher rather than having a lot of power in their party, whatever it is. But generally people would say, well, good on them, that's who we've got, and we can live with it. But there was a growing sense of, well, if we can do something better, well, let's give that a try. And what would that even look like? And we eventually formed a group and got a constitution, and it's a pretty simple structure. And I know Voices for Forest already has done that, I assume, yeah. So basically we had a common purpose, and it pretty much read the mission statement was like, improving the relationship between our elected representatives, not any one representative, but just broadly, and our community. So it's a pretty inane, a pretty neutral sort of frame around a lot of things that can happen under that. Is that you're a citizen, they're a representative. What can we do to make this whole show go better? It's an idea based on principles and values and something better. Bring people together. It's not dominated by individual people, but rather it's a community up approach. We felt that the party down approach, irrespective of which party, we didn't say firstly, we didn't specify any representative, nor did we say it's against any party. It's pro-community. That's the whole thing. The whole basis of it comes from that perspective. So anyway, the key in community engagement process that we undertook, we called it Kitchen Table Conversations, and it was adapted from a model developed by the Victorian Women's Trust back in the day. Okay, so we'll keep going. So the idea was that the facilitator's job would then say, Mary or Bill, why do you like living here? We constructed questions that would sort of draw out what people had in common. Chances are, the weather, the alpine vistas, the communities, the rivers, and people think, oh yeah, that's what I like about stuff too. So we all of a sudden, and immediately you realise that we're all in this together. It's just a question. It's a matter of which questions do you ask to elicit that. Anyway, so and then no one would interrupt, and then move on to the next person, and go right around the table. Second question, something like, what are the big issues for you? What matters to you living here that you think maybe going well or not going well? And so often you do the same thing with every person uninterrupted. A scribe would be writing down exactly what's being said in the phrases that are used by that person, not interpreted, edited, but rather just write it down. So did that all these questions, including then, how do you think the politics is working around here? And then subsequently, what could we do? What do you think should happen to make it go better? So rather than the committee members like myself and a few of the others, we figured, well, we became, in a way, curators of the process, but what it is that the larger numbers of people were saying was the issue. So So, yeah, we were in charge of the process, but the people who we spoke to, they were the ones who were raising the issues of concern. So all of this stuff got collated, hundreds of people attending, about 55 conversations, about 500 people, got into a report. That report was summarised and emphasised on priorities, things that a lot of people seem to be saying the same thing. We'd put it in darker, bold. And I should say that report, if you're ever looking for it, it's on the website of the Voices for Indi's website. So, and was collated and subsequently given to everybody who was going to then stand in the next federal election. So we launched the book, but by that time we'd also run a candidate selection process, because we were getting a lot of commentary and pressure to support the emergence of an independent candidate who would create contest at the next election. So you got the statement of 500 people with the content of what they would say when they felt respected and safe and anonymous. The names were never attached to the comments. So this is what people are saying, rather than the old classic alternate is the town hall meeting. And you know what happens in town hall meetings. Over our way, we're probably much less polite than you guys are here, but it just turns into a shouting match and people playing out their own politics. Yeah, exactly. It's the same sort of thing. People are trying to gain their own their own ground. We supported the process of selecting a candidate, and Kathy was one of 3 applicants, and she got the gig to be the candidate to represent a community voice that had been expressed through this Voices for Indi's process. So the way we did it, we separated out all of that community engagement process from the candidate themselves. Once the candidate emerged, Kathy was running her own show, had a different time frame, a different agenda, a different authority, different staffing and structure to her campaign. So we separated. Voices for Indi was a community democracy group doing all this, and once the candidates started on their campaign, we sort of went into hibernation. We weren't talking publicly about what was going on. It's Kathy's business then to be that. Defer and refer to the report, the kitchen table report, and so these are things I'm going to be representing. The people of my electorate will be what I want to listen to and who I want to listen to, I'm getting my mandate as a candidate and hopefully a federal member from my own community. No party, no donor, no external processes that are shaping what was going on in our representation, the relationship between our community and the representative. So it's a pretty simple thing in a way, isn't it? The structure we've got so far. Yes, please. To buy, a backbencher in a party is to basically say, well, whatever my community says, that's one thing. But if the party's telling me that the position on mining is X, full stop, no comma, then we would argue that's part of the problem, is that you want good debate. You want people to bring up nuanced views about things so that you get a better decision that reflects the community. And there's another question that comes up in relation to an independent, what can an independent ever do? And the first thing that goes through my mind, and having been involved in a lot of the things along the way, is, well, what can a backbencher ever do? Or someone who's not in charge of a portfolio ever do? So, in fact, more recently, Helen Haynes, who's our current federal member, she has been the one who kept that whole Integrity Commission agenda alive, item on the agenda alive, through her incessant, probably as perceived by the Prime Minister, Morrison at the time, but she'd ask every time she got a chance, Prime Minister, it's been 373 days now since you said you'd establish an Integrity Commission, ICAC Commission. How's it all going? You haven't done it yet. And because Helen was so stridently focused on that, and I should say that was an issue. It wasn't just Helen Haynes playing her own game. It was her own community had said this stuff is unacceptable, to be sports rorting, you know, all that sort of thing, making promises with taxpayers' money. Vote for us and we'll see what we can do for you. And I nod and I wink. But it's actually Helen and Kathy got the vibe from their own community that this is not acceptable, and they went and started championing the idea of the formation of and working continuously on getting that done. To me, this is sort of a bigger level at which this whole thing's shaping big issues in our world, not just you know, from one election to another. And I should say what happens between elections is now becoming just as important as what happens within elections. Like the game of an election cycle, it's like Collingwood's playing Carlton and who's going to win, you know, all of that sort of commentary. Whereas we're saying all of this quieter stuff happens outside of the glare of national media. It's communities making the difference, and they've got the power. We say that, yeah. We say that you've got the power.